Okay, if you're an ambitious, driven person, I know for a fact you've wrestled with this totally frustrating cycle. Endless procrastination followed by just crushing guilt. You've got the goals, you definitely have the drive, but sometimes it's like this invisible wall just stops you dead in your tracks. Well, welcome to today's explainer. We are diving into a concept called the survival mode trap. And honestly, this is going to completely change how you view your own productivity and, more importantly, your moments of so-called unproductivity. Think about the sheer amount of energy you spend fighting yourself when you get stuck. What if I told you that internal fight is actually based on a massive misunderstanding of how your own mind works? Let's fix that right now.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the deep clean phenomenon.
I want you to ask yourself honestly, do you ever sit down to work? You're perfectly ready to tackle your to-do list, but then you just stare at your screen for hours. It is such a relatable scenario. I mean, the time is blocked out, the coffee is perfectly brewed, your hands are literally on the keyboard, and yet, nothing. Your brain just completely locks up. And the weird thing is, you aren't even distracted by fun things. You simply cannot initiate the work right in front of you. You might open a new tab, stare at that blinking cursor, and feel this literal physical resistance in your chest. It's incredibly frustrating because you genuinely want to do the work. The ambition is 100% there, but the execution just flat out refuses to boot up.
And then, instead of doing that high priority work, do you suddenly feel this overwhelming, absolutely urgent need to deep clean your entire kitchen, or maybe reorganize your closet by color? We end up trading a high-pressure task for intense physical labor that we normally wouldn't even want to do. And look, this highlights a massive contradiction. If you were truly just being lazy, you'd be resting on the couch, right? You absolutely would not be scrubbing a kitchen sink or dusting the ceiling fan. Laziness is all about avoiding effort to conserve energy. But in this scenario, you are burning a tremendous amount of energy. So what is actually going on here? Why does your brain suddenly decide that cleaning the grout and the bathroom is a matter of life and death?
That brings us to section 2, laziness versus burnout. Okay, here is the absolute core realization you need to internalize today. You are not lazy. Your brain is actually in survival mode. Just let that sink in for a second. That deeply ingrained belief you have that you're simply lacking willpower or discipline, it's factually incorrect. Your struggle to start is not a character flaw at all. It's a neurological response. Your brain has literally flipped a switch. Look, we live in this hustle culture that constantly tells us to just push harder and grind it out. But when you hit that invisible wall, you aren't experiencing a failure of willpower. Your nervous system is genuinely perceiving the task in front of you as a threat, and it has activated a strict biological protocol to keep you safe. We really have to separate a toxic societal myth from biological reality here. Society tells us this hesitation is a lack of character, the dreaded L word, laziness. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we usually tell ourselves when we're staring at that blank screen. But the scientific reality, it's that this is burnout acting as a biological safety mechanism. That sudden, crazy urge to deep clean your house, it's actually your brain actively redirecting your energy away from a massive source of stress. It is a safety protocol kicking into high gear. You aren't avoiding work because you lack drive. You're avoiding it because your cognitive engine is redlining. Your mind is desperately pulling the emergency brake to prevent a total system failure.
Let's explore this more in section 3, the brain's safety shield.
So avoidance is absolutely not you failing to be a functional adult. In fact, avoidance is a biological protective shield actively used by your brain. Think of it as a highly sophisticated defense mechanism. When you avoid that demanding spreadsheet, that complex line of code, or that really difficult email, your brain is actively deploying a shield to protect your mental and emotional state. It's working exactly as evolution intended. Our ancient ancestors needed survival mode to escape physical predators. And sure, today there are no tigers chasing us around the office, but a high-stakes project, it can trigger the exact same biological alarm system. The brain senses danger, and boom, it immediately throws up a shield. So what exactly activates this shield in our modern, everyday world? There are 2 specific triggers you need to know about. First up is an emotional threat. Now, this isn't a physical danger, obviously, but it's a task carrying heavy emotional weight. Think about that paralyzing fear of failure, the little whisper of imposter syndrome, or the anxiety that your work just won't be good enough. Your brain registers that emotional pain as real, actual danger. The second trigger? Overstimulation. When your cognitive load is maxed out from back-to-back meetings, endless notifications, and just the daily grind, you hit a ceiling. Adding just one more demanding task to a brain that is already processing way too much information, that triggers an immediate system override.
The ultimate goal of the survival mode is simply escaping a task that feels like a threat to your peace. Seriously, your brain doesn't care about your quarterly goals. It doesn't care about your upcoming deadlines or your long-term career trajectory. When it feels emotionally threatened or chronically overstimulated, its singular, uncompromising priority is restoring internal equilibrium. Scrubbing the kitchen provides a predictable, low-stakes escape. It's an activity where you know exactly what the outcome is going to be, right? It gives you immediate visual progress and this really deep sense of control. Doing a physical, mindless task actually helps your brain regulate its own nervous system, effectively neutralizing the perceived threat of your high-pressure work.
And finally, let's wrap up with section 4, escaping survival mode.
So here's the big question to ask yourself. The next time you avoid work, will you punish yourself or will you protect your peace? Look, beating yourself up for being lazy only adds to the emotional threat, making that survival mode trap grip you even tighter. You just end up stacking guilt on top of the burnout, which honestly just extends the paralysis. When you inevitably find yourself organizing your spice rack instead of typing out that report, recognize the shield for exactly what it is. Acknowledge that your brain is just feeling threatened and overtaxed. Take a step back, give yourself a break, remove the guilt, and address the actual burnout at its root. By understanding your own biology, you can finally stop fighting yourself and start moving forward. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep this biological reality in your back pocket the next time you face that blank screen.